This week marks 10 years since the financial crisis that saw the first run on a British bank, Northern Rock, in almost 150 years. Countries around the world were affected by what was a global crash, but their way of dealing with it differed. Well, joining me now is Wayne Swan, former Deputy Prime Minister of Australia, who was his country's treasurer at the time of the crash. Welcome to you.
It's good to be back. It's been a while.
Yeah. I mean, there is a perception, if you like, that Australia managed to weather the credit crunch and the banking crisis. Do you think that's fair?
Yes, well, we came through in better shape than any other developed economy. Our economy is now 28% larger than it was at the end of 2007. The British economy is about 12% larger than the end of 2007. The European economy is about 8%. So there's no doubt that Australia came through in better shape. And the main reason we came through in better shape is that we did deliver far bigger and more powerful stimulus, both monetary and fiscal stimulus, than just about any other developed country.
Or you're perhaps less exposed, bearing in mind your economy less dependent on capital, more dependent on...
Oh no, we were very exposed. I mean, essentially when the global economy fell off a cliff, it wasn't just the developed world, it was the developing world as well. So China really hit the deck for a very substantial period of time. The two countries that came out of it strongest were China and Australia, and it's no coincidence that those two countries put in place the most substantial stimulus.
So you think that, the answer is Keynesian, effectively?
Absolutely, and when we're talking about, the dilemmas in the economy at the moment, I mean, the global financial crisis shone a light on growing income and wealth inequality. And it also didn't leave the elites that had implemented that over time in great standing in the community either. There is no question that the very slow recovery from the global financial crisis or Great Recession has led to lower living standards and a fair bit of political discontent, which you're seeing in this country and many other developed countries around the world.
You, of course, had changes in government in Australia as well.
Certainly.
But I mean, if you look back at the circumstances, do you think that the British government, for example, could have done more, could have pumped more money into the economy? After all, we've had quantitative easing for the best part of a decade.
Yeah, but we've had excessive reliance on monetary policy. What was required was the use of fiscal policy. So Alistair Darling and Gordon Brown did put in place substantial fiscal stimulus, which was then wound back by George Osborne. And the fact that they wound it back has condemned this country to lower levels of growth over a longer period of time. I used that figure before,
sure.
12% bigger in Britain than at the end of 2007. All that lost output, all that higher unemployment, all those businesses...
Well, we haven't had higher unemployment. I mean, you look at our unemployment is actually pretty good.
Well, you did for a long period of time, and even now, if you look at your labour market, underemployment, which is a feature right around the world, is a huge drag on economic growth. As that gentleman there before was saying, if workers have got less to spend, growth is lower.
Now, as you know, we're coming out of the European Union. Do you welcome that?
I think it's particularly crazy, but I'm not in the business of providing advice. You see, I mean, this would be the equivalent of New Zealand saying we're going to bust up with Australia. We're going to get rid of all of our trade agreements and our economic relationships, and we're going to sail off and sell milk to China. I don't see how it works, but, it's a democratic decision which we must respect.
I mean, we are told by supporters of us that in terms of global trade, including with countries like Australia and New Zealand, we will be in a better position.
Well, Australia's focus is very clearly on Asia and has been for a long time. Whilst we have strong trade relationships with Britain, Britain left us behind a very long period of time ago.
Well, we did have more, much more trade proportionately
before
we joined the European Union. Is there not a prospect of rebuilding a kind of Anglosphere, a global trading network?
Well, not without stronger global growth. I mean, global growth is still very weak and anemic, and we need a much more coordinated approach across the globe between developed and developing countries to strengthen global growth, because you're not going to get the trade revival in Asia or anywhere, or between Britain or Australia, if we continue to experience relatively weak global growth, and we are experiencing that.
So when Australian or New Zealand politicians say, well, the door's open, that's just warm words, really, is it? I mean...
Well, I mean, when you disconnect from a body as large as Europe, As I just said, it's the equivalent of New Zealand trying to disconnect itself from Australia. That must have some dramatic impacts. But look, I wish your country well in establishing those new relationships.
What about Britain as a gateway to the European Union? How important has that been to Australia?
I think it's been very important, but that's now being disconnected, and that's part of the problem.
OK, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Swan.
Good to be with you.